A low mist rolled across the forests of Hurtgen, clinging to the undergrowth like a living thing. It was dawn on November 3, 1944, and the world seemed suspended in a cold, gray silence. The trees were stripped bare, their branches blackened by weeks of shellfire. Every few seconds, the stillness was pierced by a distant metallic whisper, the faint, almost delicate whine of incoming rounds, followed by the bone-shaking roar of impact. The earth trembled. Leaves shuddered. And somewhere in the shattered tree line, German infantrymen flattened themselves into frozen soil that offered no protection. They had learned a new fear. Not of tanks or aircraft. Not of infantry assaults or night raids. But of something invisible, an American innovation so quiet, so methodical, that it transformed the battlefield into a chessboard of death. Every grid square. Every patch of earth. Every place a man could stand, crawl, or breathe. All of it could be struck without warning. This is the contradiction at the heart of our story. The Germans believed they understood artillery. But the Americans had rewritten the rules. For years, the Wehrmacht considered itself the master of firepower. Its gunners were elite, its doctrines refined, its officers steeped in a tradition dating back to the Prussian kings. German artillery had crushed Poland, torn through France, and shattered Soviet lines across entire fronts. Yet in the forests of Belgium, the plains of Lorraine, and the hedgerows of Normandy, German officers began encountering something they could not explain. Fire missions landing with uncanny accuracy, barrages arriving faster than any calculation allowed, rounds shifting from one target to another in mere minutes, enemy guns that never seemed to reveal their position, a sense, cold, inevitable, of being watched from far above. One officer wrote in his diary, "It is as if they know exactly where we are, every moment of the day." The truth was even more unnerving. What they were experiencing was not merely American industrial power, nor the brute force of massed guns. It was the result of a hidden innovation, a system so advanced, so quietly revolutionary, that it altered the psychology of the battlefield. The Americans had developed a way to turn maps into weapons, mathematics into destruction, and every square kilometer into a potential kill zone. It was called the time-on-target system, supported by the world's most sophisticated fire direction network, radio communications, and meteorological corrections. It meant hundreds of guns, scattered across miles, could fire so that their shells arrived at the exact same second on the exact same grid square without any warning. It meant German troops could not hear the first round and dive for cover. Death simply appeared. Two worlds collided that winter. The German belief in precision crafted through doctrine and discipline, the American belief that technology, science, and organization could multiply the power of every artillery piece. And it was here, in the fog, in the frozen earth, in the shattered forests, that this innovation revealed its terrifying implications. This story is not simply about shells exploding in the mud. It is about the evolution of warfare, the transformation of an army, the collapse of old assumptions, and the moment when German soldiers realized they were facing something new, something that turned the battlefield into a grid they no longer controlled. In the end, this story reveals a deeper truth about civilization, that the greatest power lies not only in weapons themselves, but in the systems that direct them, the minds that coordinate them, and the invisible networks that make them strike with godlike precision. Act I, build up, before the transformation. Before Normandy, before Metz, before the Ardennes, American artillery was seen as competent but conventional. The U.S. Army entered World War II with a peacetime mindset, outdated doctrines, limited staff experience, few veterans of large-scale fire missions. The Germans expected a slow-learning army, heavy-handed and clumsy. Their doctrine emphasized centralized control, elaborate pre-registered targets, and carefully surveyed positions. The Americans, by contrast, believed artillery existed to serve the infantry, a reactive arm, not an independent force. Their early battles in North Africa revealed flaws. Slow response times, poor coordination, limited communication between batteries, miscalculations caused by weather, inefficiencies in fire direction centers. At Kasserine Pass in early 1943, these shortcomings were exposed painfully. American units were pushed back by German armor and artillery whose fire seemed faster, more disciplined, more lethal. In the aftermath, something changed. General Leslie J. McNair, commander of the Army Ground Forces, demanded a revolution, not in guns but in method. He oversaw standardized fire direction centers, more flexible command structures, integration of meteorological teams, universalized map grids, rapid radio-based fire adjustments, new training that emphasized mathematical precision. McNair saw what many did not: that in modern war, the brain of artillery mattered more than its muscle. A cultural shift began. American artillery would become not reactive but predictive, not lumbering but lightning fast, not merely destructive but omnipresent. The stage was set. Act 2, Turning Point, the hidden innovation. The breakthrough came from a deceptively simple idea. Time on target, TOT. The concept was revolutionary. Every gun firing at a different distance, every shell traveling at a different speed but all arriving at the same second. This required extraordinary calculations. Barrel wear, air temperature, wind layers, powder temperature, angle of fall, charge type, target elevation, grid corrections. American Fire Direction Centers, FDCs, became the beating heart of the system. Dozens of clerks, officers and technicians performed rapid-fire math, using gunners, quadrants, director sights, plotting boards, range tables, meteorological balloons, feeding constant atmospheric data, radio networks linking all batteries simultaneously. In Germany, a battalion commander might control a single battalion. In the U.S. Army, a lieutenant with a radio could command entire brigades of artillery. This was the hidden innovation. Centralization of information, decentralization of power. The result: faster missions, deadlier accuracy, minimal warning, massive psychological impact. On June 6, 1944, during the Normandy landings, TOT missions devastated German strongpoints. By September, during the Lorraine campaign, American guns fired over 1 million rounds in support of General Patton alone. The innovation reached perfection in the Hurtgen Forest and later the Ardennes. Act 3, Confrontation. Two armies respond. German units were stunned. Report from the 275th Infantry Division, October 1944. Enemy fires shift with impossible speed. We relocate positions and are struck within minutes. Diary of Oberleutnant Klaus Refeld ***. We hear nothing, then the world explodes. American officers noted similar reactions. Forward observer Lieutenant Carl Hastings recalled. The Germans used to wait for the first round. After Normandy there was no first round. There was only everything at once. One famous reconstruction comes from the Ardennes. German officer. How many guns do you have? American artillery captain. All of them. Act 4, Human element. Letter from PFC William Red Harper. When our guns open up, I swear the sky itself bends. The earth shakes and you feel, just for a second, that nothing could survive out there. German soldier, anonymous field note. We fear the maps now. Every grid square is death. Radio chatter, Luxembourg, December 1944. Fire mission. Target AB 2217. Confirm AB 2217. Time on target. Stand by. Fire. Pause. Then thunder. These fragments, small, almost fleeting, capture the lived experience of modern mechanized firepower, awe, terror, and the surreal feeling of being caught inside a machine larger than any human. Act V, Consequences, the psychological collapse. By late 1944, American artillery had become statistically overwhelming. Numbers. U.S. artillery fired over 500,000 rounds during the Battle of the Bulge. German divisions reported casualty rates of 60 to 80% from artillery alone. Over 70% of German officers interviewed post-war cited U.S. artillery as the decisive factor. In ground combat, American TOT missions cut German survival time in exposed positions from minutes to seconds. American infantry came to expect constant fire support. German infantry came to expect annihilation. The psychological consequences were profound. Troops abandoned positions prematurely. Movement became erratic. Officers hesitated to mass. Forces patrols dissolved under fear of detection. Morale crashed. Artillery was no longer just a weapon. Act 6, Reflection, a shift in warfare. By April 1945, the German army understood the truth. It had lost not only a war of men, but a war of minds, systems, and calculations. American artillery had changed the nature of modern conflict. Decentralized observation, centralized computation, total battlefield coverage, rapid, scientific destruction. The hidden innovation, time on target, became the model for post-war NATO doctrine. Warfare now belonged not just to soldiers, but to mathematicians, radio operators, and the unseen technicians who made every grid square a potential grave. This moment redefined warfare. It revealed a future where the battlefield was shaped by invisible systems, and where mastery of information mattered more than mastery of fire. When the guns finally fell silent in May 1945, the forests of Europe were left scarred, trees splintered, fields cratered, villages reduced to rubble. But among the ruins, one lesson stood above all others, whispered by veterans on both sides. American artillery had changed the meaning of distance, safety, and even fate itself. The defeated Germans who survived spoke of it with a mixture of awe and resignation. They had been raised to believe war was decided by courage, discipline, and the cunning of officers. Yet they had encountered a new truth, one that overturned the romanticism of past wars. They discovered that modern power flowed through radio waves, calculations, meteorological balloons, synchronized clocks, decentralized decisions, empowering the lowest observers. War had become a scientific symphony. The Americans had shown that a soldier with a map and a radio could wield the power of a regiment. That destruction could be organized, timed, and delivered with the precision of an industrial machine. In the post-war years, this realization reshaped military doctrine worldwide. Nations studied the American fire direction system. Allied officers lectured on time on target in classrooms from West Point to Sandhurst. Former German officers, now contributing to NATO's rebirth, admitted that American artillery had been the one force they could not match. There was irony in this. The very innovation that terrified German soldiers later protected them under a new alliance. The precision that once buried them under steel now served to deter new wars. Technology had revealed its dual nature, capable of destruction, yet capable of preventing it. But there was a deeper lesson too. Behind every fire mission were the unseen minds, the clerks with charcoal pencils, the weather teams tracking shifting winds, the forward observers crawling through mud with radios pressed to their chests. Men who never fired around themselves, yet reshaped the battlefield through calculations and courage. Their work revealed a profound truth. Civilization's strength lies not just in raw power, but in coordination, human beings working in harmony toward a common purpose. The story of American artillery is, at its core, a story of human cooperation at its most extraordinary scale. Millions of people, engineers, factory workers, mathematicians, logisticians, radio operators, drivers, gunners, each contributing a thread to a vast, unseen web of capability. War exposed the heights such cooperation could reach. Peace would determine whether humanity used that power wisely. One German officer left behind a line in his memoir that still echoes in military academies. They made the map dangerous. We never understood until it was too late. It is a haunting image of a battlefield where every square inch is alive with potential energy, waiting only for a coordinate to unleash it. And it leads us to the final reflection. In an age defined by information, the most powerful weapon is not merely the shell that lands, but the knowledge that guides it. Not the explosion that tears the earth, but the invisible chain of decisions that set it in motion. In the end, the American system revealed something timeless. That knowledge, organized, shared, and wielded with purpose, is the true engine of power in modern civilization. And as we look to our own world, shaped by networks, systems, and unseen forces, we are reminded. The grid squares we stand on are still shaped by those who control information. And in every age, it is the mastery of those unseen systems that determines the fate of nations.